the Fantasy Football Fanalist Podcast, presented by Fantasy Data. Here's your hosts, Billy Muzio and Bradley Stalder.
Welcome back, everybody. All right. NFL draft is finally over. Why am I saying finally? It's like a holiday for us. The NFL draft is over. And here we are now recapping rounds 2 through 7 of the 2021 NFL draft. We recapped round 1 with Shane Hallam here last Friday live on the Fantasy Data live stream presented by Fantasy Data. And we have now 2 through 7 tonight. So it's going to be pretty quick, rapid fire, because we have a lot to cover. So Bradley, let's just dive right in.
Absolutely. We'll kick it off with the 34th pick of the NFL draft. New York Jets selected Elijah Moore, and he's a wide receiver, speedy, 5'9", very small, slots himself as a slot receiver. That immediately puts Jamison Crowder's future with the Jets into question. And we're looking at a Jets starting lineup of Corey Davis and Denzel Mims on the outside, with Elijah Moore slotting in close to the line of scrimmage, and Zach Wilson and a new offensive line. So there's a lot of new pieces for this New York Jets offense. You have to give the Jets credit here with this pick.
Yeah, I think with this selection, it does signify the departure here, or soon to be departure, of Jamison Crowder. Word was that they were possibly going to cut him, possibly trying to trade him. So I would expect in the offseason one of the two to happen. Pick 35 from the Denver Broncos, we have Javonte Williams. And, Bradley, my heart really hurt when I saw this pick come up. And for those of you who don't know, yours truly over here is a big Royce Freeman, hashtag Royce Free Me believer. And, he just hasn't panned out here on this Broncos team. And I thought, you know what, this might be his year, because Philip Lindsay went off to Houston. But no, the Denver Broncos daggered my heart, and they selected Williams here with pick 35. And he was arguably some people's number one running back in this class. Not mine. No, not mine. You've heard my spiel last week about him being my Thomas Rawls. So I'm not gonna go into that right now, but they traded up for this pick. And so I'm a little concerned with MG3's workload. I'm a little bit concerned for Royce Freeman's workload. or you would say Mike Boone, right? And so
yes, Mike Boone's workload.
So let's be honest here. Javonte Williams is the better back out of those three. So it's going to be him and Melvin Gordon here for 2021.
I think, if anything, the perspective for me is that it doesn't help Javonte Williams. We were hoping that he would land in a spot like Atlanta, but in fact, this was the pick that Atlanta traded down from. That Denver traded up for. So Williams goes to a spot where he's splitting carries year one. This is not as ideal as fantasy managers had hoped. We had already talked about being disappointed that ETN was the 1.02 that in one quarterback leagues that you were drafting. Javonte Williams is going to be the 1.03. Maybe Jamar Chase is there too if you really want it, but yeah, I'm disappointed with that landing spot. And I think that's been the general theme, is there haven't been a lot of favorable landing spots for many of these players. So we'll continue to see that thread, that theme threaded throughout the rest of the podcast here.
Speaking of the next one, I mean, it was one of those unfavorables for me. Why don't you tell me who it was?
Yeah, 49th overall, Arizona Cardinals select Rondale Moore, wide receiver. We thought Elijah Moore was small at 5'9". No, Rondale Moore is the Ant-Man, 5'7". He's going to man the slot, and this all but signals that Larry Fitzgerald is going to retire this coming season. I also think this creates a lot of chaos in the wide receiver room for the Cardinals, given that Christian Kirk has had success both in the slot and as a wide receiver. But they just signed AJ Green, who's going to play on the outside opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. So I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to have to be really creative with how they use all 4 wide receivers. They don't have a tight end. Their tight end one right now is Max Williams, who had a 3% target share last season. So I expect a lot of passes to these wide receivers, and maybe they can manage, but this definitely tempers the ceiling for all but maybe Hopkins.
5'7", that's like midget size. I mean, he's tiny. He's Tariq Cohen size almost. And yeah, I agree. I hate to see Larry Fitz leave. He's one of my favorite players of all time. He really is. And I am going to be interested to see what they do with this offense. Like you said, them having AJ Green here really changes things. I think it signifies to me that the non-belief or the non-trust they have in Christian Kirk.
Well, Kirk's been hurt a lot and he's been inconsistent.
Yeah, he really has. And like he has boom weeks where he'll win you weeks and then just disappears. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of these wide receivers worked in, and it's really going to kind of hurt all the wide receivers with the exception of DeAndre Hopkins.
Moving on, number 55, Pittsburgh Steelers selected Pat Freiermuth, a tight end. And this is out of necessity. Vance McDonald retired, and the Steelers have a really poor offensive line. Freiermuth is an accomplished blocker, and he's an accomplished receiver. So he's the best of both worlds for the Steelers. Solid run blocker, but he also has the comps ranging from Hunter Henry to Rob Gronkowski. So he's very accomplished. I think this hurts Juju, but also I don't expect Freiermuth to be an immediate fantasy tight end impact year one.
Most tight ends aren't. I mean, we see that year in and year out. Everybody reaches for a tight end, but tight end is one of the positions in the NFL. It's one of the most to develop. I mean, they're learning multiple positions. They're learning routes. They're learning how to block. There's multiple learning curves here for tight ends. It's the hardest position outside quarterback to learn in the NFL. So you never really see a rookie tight end be that productive year one. I mean, yes, you have their exceptions.
They're like wide receivers, unless they're
Correct.
Virtually wide receivers.
But even then, like their first year, they like Evan Ingram is the most recent one to really excel in his rookie year. So will this year be Pitts? Probably, right? But I don't expect Freiermuth to be on top of that list as well.
For sure. Number 56, Seattle Seahawks selected Dwayne Eskridge, a wide receiver out of Western Michigan. David Moore left for Carolina, and he wasn't replaced in free agency. So Eskridge, being 5'9", 190, he's one of the older wide receivers drafted, in fact, at 24. He's also a 4th round projected based on PFF's grades. So I think he was a bit overdrafted, but he was fast. He's got a 4.45 40. He's a downfield threat, which is exactly what Russell Wilson loves to throw to. He's 23.3 college yards per reception, the 98th percentile. He had 8 receiving touchdowns last season in 6 games for Western Michigan. And I think if you're in redraft and it's super late and you have a handcuff to DK Metcalf, I think this is possibly a handcuff situation. One of the rare situations here.
It also shows me that this offense wants to throw the ball more, is what this tells me. They're looking for, I should say, their Percy Harvin again, right? When they had a little bit more electricity inside their offense. And yes, they started off hot last year, but then it just kind of cooled down. So I think that this shows me they want to pass the ball a little bit more, and they went out and grabbed a wide receiver here at pick 56.
At 57, the Rams also grabbed a wide receiver, Tutu Atwell. And just when you thought the Rams were good at wide receiver, I mean, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson drafted in the 2nd round last year. They used a 2nd round pick on Atwell, and he's small, 5'9", 155, Billy. Oh, man, if back in the day when I was 155, but he's 83rd percentile speed, 81st in agility, 92nd breakout age. He broke out at 18. But he'll be buried on the depth chart for at least another year, maybe 2.
That is so small. Like I was like 90 pounds in like 5th grade, like playing Pop Warner football, losing weight. Whew. And there's this kid in the pros at 155 pounds.
Yep.
Man, could you imagine like one across the middle where he just gets pounded by a linebacker? Like
you gotta look out. Gotta look out.
Yeah,
he needs extra padding.
extra padding. I wanted to see how much he's going to be used this year. They still have, like you said, they have a crazy amount of wide receivers, and they're not like they're bad wide receivers. They're actually all pretty talented. And then they have a pretty talented backfield as well between Akers and Henderson. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of Atwell here this year.
And we saw later in the draft tight end wide receiver hybrids to complement Tyler Higbee. So yeah, there's a lot of receiving talent for Matthew Stafford and the Rams here. At 59, the Carolina Panthers selected Terrace Marshall, wide receiver. There were some injury questions going into the draft, but he's going to replace Curtis Samuel's target share. But he's an alpha wide receiver. There's a lot to love about his measurables. He's 6'2", 205, 92nd percentile dominator rating, 80th percentile 40, 86th breakout age. He does have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson ahead of him, but he's also like a force. He shared target share with Jefferson and Chase and still produced 13 touchdowns in 12 games for LSU in 2019. I do wonder how much of a downgrade, though, going from Burrow to Sam Darnold, will really affect Marshall and his fantasy outlook moving forward.
Well, not just that, but now he's going to be third or fourth here on the target share list for the Panthers. I mean, like you said, you have Robbie Anderson ahead of him, you have DJ Moore ahead of him, Christian McCaffrey ahead of him. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just to name a few.
I won't name Dan Arnold, but I do love Dan Arnold.
I knew you were going to name Dan Arnold here. I had a bet in my head with myself and I just won. So, but I like the size. I like the speed. I think he has a lot of metrics and measurables here to love. And I think that this will kind of replace Robbie Anderson as he gets older. So this is definitely more of a dynasty play than it is for a 2021 play. I think Terrace Marshall will make a splash, but not so much in 2021.
And to round out the second round, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected quarterback Kyle Trask as the presumptive successor to Tom Brady. Trask has a 92nd percentile QBR in college, and he is a pocket passer. He should flourish if he learns under Brady. He played really well with strong playmakers around him, and that's what the Bucs have for a while. They've got Godwin, they've got Evans, they've got Gronk, they've got Antonio Brown. If he needs to step in, he's got weapons to level him up. He's not going to level up other players like Tom Brady can level up players, but this is someone who could step in and be a successor here. I think this is a great selection for the Bucs. And they can build around him with playmakers in the future.
I loved this pick because it's one of those quarterback picks where you don't need him year one. He has the talent to excel in the NFL, but he's able to sit back and learn from one of the greatest. I'm not saying he's the next Aaron Rodgers, but it's kind of that similar scenario to where he's able to learn from a great ahead of him, just like Aaron Rodgers got to learn from Brett Favre. Trask gets to come in and learn from Brady here in an offense with, like you said, with tons of weapons, and can step in, make an impact if he's needed, but more than likely he's going to ride the pine and just learn from the greatest of all time. So I think this was a very smart pick on the Bucs. You and I had talked this offseason about why is nobody talking about Trask? I mean, this kid was good in college, and for them to get him at the end of round 2, where somebody like Mac Jones went in 15, to me, I think that
that's good value.
It's a good value.
All right. And there was a run on quarterbacks here to start out the third round. Kellen Mond was selected by the Minnesota Vikings at pick 66. Kirk Cousins backup. I think he steps in there. Mannion's not back with the Vikings. And the Vikings, honestly, throughout the entire draft, made it a priority to draft backups to already solid positions. So that's what we'll see as a theme here. A lot of backups to positions just to solidify, get some depth here. I'm not concerned about Kellen Mond usurping Kirk Cousins anytime soon. I know there's been a little bit of chatter from various talking heads out there, but I'm not concerned, and I don't think our listeners should be either.
No, don't listen to those talking heads. You have to be able to know when to fade the noise. I guess hashtag out. Or not hashtag, but shout out to Fade the Noise there. But there are a lot of times when people are out here just saying things to say things, and I'm not going to be concerned with Kirk Cousins playing time with Kellen Mond there.
To round out the quarterback run here, Houston selected Davis Mills. Mills was a third round projected prospect by PFF. However, he'll be the backup to Tyrod Taylor as long as Watson is out. This is going to be a very different offense if Mills is under center for as opposed to Taylor, as Mills has a total of 86 rushing yards in 14 college games. With other positions of need, this is a head-scratching pick, Billy. You're going to go after a quarterback. They must really view him high. I thought there were other positions that really needed to be addressed here.
I don't think it's about them viewing him high. I think it's about them viewing their future and whether they think Deshaun Watson is in it or not. And I think that this just signifies that they don't believe Deshaun Watson is going to be playing for their organization. Why else go out and sign Tyrod Taylor? Why go out and sign a quarterback in round 3 here?
And they have to hedge their bets, sure, but
I just think that they are betting that Watson is not returning to the Texas organization, even if he's playing again. So if you had to place a bet right now, Bradley, does Deshaun Watson play in 2021?
No.
I don't think so either.
I would bet no.
Yeah, I'm probably 60% no, 40% yes, just because talent in the NFL usually supersedes any legal actions. You've seen them look the other way with a lot of different.
As long as there's not a video, that's true. That's been the general trend over the last 5 years. Is if there's a video of a player doing something, that's the difference between Jameis Winston getting a slap on the wrist for 3 games versus
Kareem Hunt being almost expelled,
right,
for trying out for a kicker position.
Yikes. Okay, a surprise pick here. The Los Angeles Chargers at 77 selected Josh Palmer, wide receiver, and he comps is a wide range. Jacoby Jones to Jordy Nelson. Like, this is going to be an absolute hit or an absolute miss. And
those comps,
like, there is, I think they were just like, who are like extremes in wide receiver? Let's pick Jordy Nelson. Let's pick Jacoby Jones. In all fairness,
Jordy Nelson wasn't the highest sought after prospect, right?
He's what, a 4th rounder?
Yeah, I don't remember where he was drafted, quite frankly, but he
probably a 4th.
He excelled with Aaron Rodgers and in Green Bay, and it just played well together. So I can see where, this isn't as extreme as we're thinking off the top of our head.
He just didn't have any outstanding measurables, and he wasn't on my radar going into this draft as a wide receiver I was interested in. He did get a 3rd round projection from PFF, and he did really well against man coverage. So if they're sending Mike Williams, if they're sending Josh Palmer, if they're moving Keenan Allen around, this is going to be very interesting for Josh Palmer if he can level up. He's been comped again as a Mike Williams light and may line up outside as, that alpha type. And he played better than his stats at Tennessee. So I'm excited to see what Justin Herbert can do to level up a Josh Palmer. That's a lot of draft capital to invest in a guy.
It is. And you have to think, though, Mike Williams hasn't really pan out to be the receiver they thought they were going to be. They're probably looking to help grow his weapons that he has here. They definitely upgraded the O-line. They wanted to give him something else down the field as well.
Okay, at 81, the Miami Dolphins selected Hunter Long, a tight end. Well, I mean, if you thought Mike Gesicki's fantasy value was gone with Waddle's pick or with Will Fuller, it's really dead with Hunter Long. He's comped as Jason Witten, and he was sizably involved in the passing game at Boston College. He had one game where he had 17 targets. 17! This is a tight end. I mean, it may take 2 years. He's not going to be, as we've talked about before, tight ends take time to develop. It's going to be Mike Gesicki starting tight end. But if you're in Dynasty, it's too late to sell Gesicki.
Honestly, I'd still buy him. I'm not gonna lie here. I know that Hunter Long's here now. I know they've added a lot of weapons in this offense, but I really like what Miami's doing here. I do think
only had 3 good games last year.
Yeah, but they're playing quarterback roulette, and Tua was in. They had Fitzpatrick in. Tua was back in,
and it was when Devontae Parker was hurt. Preston Williams was hurt.
There was a lot of inconsistencies. I like Gesicki's talent. I really do.
Oh, of course, he's been a monster talent, but he just couldn't produce in college. He had the measurables, but I think that Hunter Long is a higher floor long-term play here.
Yeah, I'd still take Gesicki here for 2021 Dynasty. I think it's more of an argument, but
That's fair.
but I'm overall I really like what Miami has done these last 2 years.
Oh, for sure.
I would say they're the most improved team in the NFL and have the brightest future of most teams building right now. I think they've done a fantastic job.
I agree. They're building the right way. At 82, the Washington football team selected De'Ami Brown, wide receiver, and Brown is 6'1", 185 to 189. Just depends on where you're looking. He's a field stretcher with 4.5 40 speed, college yards per reception 20.1, and he's going to keep defenses honest with Terry McLaurin and then the gadget king, of course, Curtis Samuel. I think he's a nice complementary piece, and some analysts have comped him to Terry McLaurin himself. So for fantasy, I wish he would have gone elsewhere. He may have to battle for the number 3 position with Cam Sims to start and then work his way maybe to number 2. But there's a lot of work to be done for De'Ami Brown to be fantasy relevant, especially year 1.
All right, what's up with the weight variance here? Like, did he eat like 2 burritos before he waited one day and like fasted the next? Like,
at least it's not as bad as Rashad Bateman. Like dude shrunk 2 inches and lost 20 pounds.
Yeah. Oh my God, these measurables. You have to wonder about colleges sometimes and what they're actually what they're putting out there. But yeah, I don't like the landing spot. And like we said, that was kind of a consensus here going in, like, as we were analyzing the draft. It's just a lot of these landing spots, just for fantasy purposes, weren't the best.
The holes weren't filled. And yeah, and people who were filling them weren't the right fit, we thought.
Yeah. And that's, from a fantasy perspective, it's one way. We'll see how they pan out in the NFL because there's a difference. There's NFL talent and there's fantasy relevant talent. So I think that De'Ami Brown may be more of that NFL talent than fantasy relevant talent.
Well, at 83, this may be more of an NFL talent here. The Carolina Panthers selected University of Notre Dame tight end Tommy Tremble. What a name there, Billy. I mean,
TT.
Yeah, TT, Mr. Tremble himself. This selection tells you how badly the Panthers hate Ian Thomas. They go out they go out and sign Dan Arnold and now draft Tremble. Tremble is more of a blocker. That was so he's an avoid for me in rookie fantasy drafts. His primary function at Notre Dame was blocking. He was one of the best run blocking tight ends there. So he's a better blocker than Thomas, and Dan Arnold's a better receiver. So I think that there could be, that rotation there.
Yeah, Ian Thomas sucks. I mean, plain and simple. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, he's bad. He's bad in real NFL. He's bad in fantasy. So I like the Tommy Tremble pick.
At 85, my Green Bay Packers selected.
I'm going to sit back and let you talk about this one.
A wide receiver. It's about freaking time. Amari Rodgers. So here's the thing. No matter what happens this offseason, the Packers will have an A. Rodgers playing for them come fall 2021. And I mean, it's about... And
they'll also have at least one Aaron playing for them as well.
Where's my Kleenex, Billy? I need my Kleenex. I didn't expect to be crying on the live stream. Okay, it's about insert your favorite expletive time that they drafted wide receiver, but I don't like this pick either. He's been comped to Ty Montgomery, Lynn Bowden, Deebo Samuel. Deebo's the only one that's of interest, and I mean, Deebo was a first round selection. So sure, he'll operate out of the slot, but he just broke out last year at Clemson with one of the most transcendent quarterbacks of our generation, like that's been scouted by our generation. His presence may hurt Tunyon. His presence may hurt Aaron Jones. I don't like it. It won't help Devontae Adams. He operates really close to the line of scrimmage, and he's not super fast. He's not agile. He doesn't have the workout metrics. Amari Rodgers, I think, once again, a bad pick by the Green Bay Packers.
The correct pick should have been Elijah Moore. and
back at the first round.
correct, instead of the cornerback. I mean, that's what should have happened. But
Because he's a slot receiver, speed.
And they need a slot receiver. They really do. I mean,
Yeah.
they haven't had one since Randall Cobb. And I think that I was actually, I had money on the fact that they were going to take him. It didn't pan out. They take the cornerback. I pull my hair out.
Stokes.
And
I
then
love
the
you,
Jets-
Stokes, by the way. If you ever hear this, I do love you. I just think you should have been drafted by someone else.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Elijah Moore should have been drafted round 1 and instead of by the New York Jets. So good job, Packers. Way to kind of just, hey, we got you your wide receiver.
They're turning it into
That's what it was.
They're turning into the Jacksonville Jaguars before our eyes. Okay, 88th overall, the 49ers selected running back Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. Billy, you're our resident 49ers expert. What do you think of the Sermon pick?
I don't like it. I really don't. I think there was plenty of other positions and needs that we could have filled here. I mean, cornerback and secondary was what I thought we should have been addressing here. And I don't think running back was a priority. I mean, we already had Mostert. You just re-signed Wilson. You just picked up Gallman. And I did not think that we needed to reach for a running back this early, especially, Trey Sermon. I could see some waiting and and we'll get to Mitchell later, but I think that was a fine pick. But I think that
I love Mitchell.
I do too. And getting him that late is fine, but I don't think we didn't need Trey Sermon here at 88. So, I mean, it's great. He's got great contact balance and he can stop on a dime, but he's not particularly fast. He runs tall. He doesn't get low. And it's just, to me, just an odd pick. So I'm not crazy about it.
I think he's being overdrafted in rookie drafts too. I think the
Absolutely.
fact that he's a running back on a Shanahan offense, gives a lot of cred, and I get it. It's hard. The prayers lead us not to temptation, but this is almost too tempting for a lot of rookie drafts. I'd look elsewhere.
Yeah, this is more of a 2022 play because Mostert's getting old. I mean, Wilson.
Mostert's 29. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what
25.
Wilson does. We'll see what Wilson does. If Wilson, plays, then I mean, he's the guy. Right.
Yep.
And he's young enough to where he's going to stick around. So I think that the Sermon pick is kind of a gamble in rookie drafts right now for fantasy purposes. You're hoping that he plays, and
he's probably a bust though.
Yeah.
At least year one.
I would say so as well. And in this offense, it's very easy for somebody to excel and to do well. But I just think that the amount of talent they have ahead of him as well is going to be hard for him to surpass.
Now, a player that I'm actually really high on at 89.
He's your new Chad Hansen.
He is. Well, someone had to do it. I'm really until Hansen resigns somewhere. Houston Texans selected Nico Collins, wide receiver out of Michigan, and he should easily beat out less dynamic wide receivers on the Texans for that wide receiver 2 spot across from Brandon Cooks. If anything, he may be the alpha number 1 neck in 2022. QT's in the slot. You've got a bunch of no-name free agents. The Texans were signing 30 plus free agents, whatever. Collins is alpha material. 6'4", 215. He has amazing measurables, and Deshaun Watson actually does play. Watch out, because Collins could dominate. And we saw what Will Fuller did running alongside Cooks. Even if he doesn't play, I'm still in on stashing Nico Collins. Love Nico Collins. Seeing if I can get him most places.
Yeah, I think 2021 is going to be a rough year if Watson does not play. I mean, we've talked about Tyrod Taylor in the offseason from last year, and
low pass volume,
run first. And I just think that if that's what we're going to see here in 2021 for the Texans, this entire passing game is going to really struggle.
Although, to be fair, Collins operated with really terrible quarterback play at the University of Michigan. So he's used to it. Yeah, he's used to it. That's helpful. Moving to 91, the Cleveland Browns select speedster Anthony Schwartz at wide receiver. The Browns have a need, and the need for speed. With Rashard Higgins on a 1-year deal, OBJ with 1 year left before he could get cut, and Jarvis Landry entering year 29, the Browns selected raw, unpolished receiver that could learn a lot of route running from 2 of the best route runners in the NFL, in OBJ and Landry. Schwartz is only 20 years old. And without the pressure to start right off the bat, I'm really excited about him stepping up into a target share for 2022. Don't worry about 2021. Schwartz is a 2022 play.
Yeah, he's a great dynasty stash. There's a lot of talent ahead of him for this year, but for dynasty purposes, he's going to be a nice little asset.
Extremely talented. At 97, the Chargers selected tight end at Trey McKitty.
I love that name. Say it again, please.
Trey McKitty.
You have a cat run across the screen.
Trey McKitty. Jared Cook signed in free agency, making McKitty even less exciting. He didn't break out. He transferred from Florida State to Georgia to play 4 games for the Bulldogs. Then he declared for the NFL draft. His unexciting workout metrics. I think he's a meh pick. I'm avoiding in fantasy drafts. I think he doesn't have anything really going for him.
Other than a name.
He does have his name. Trey McKitty. I just had to say it one more time.
He needs like a cat food sponsor. I think that's like his best. That's like his best thing going for him.
Well, the free fall ended here, Billy, at 107 for Michael Carter. The New York Jets selected the UNC running back. And I think, of all the landing spots, only Najee Harris is a better landing spot to start week 1. You've got Ty Johnson, Josh Adams, LaMichael Pirine. This is an ambiguous backfield, and Michael Carter is talented enough that he could sneak into interesting running back territory for next year.
I really like what the Jets had done so far through the first, 107 picks, and they got their quarterback, they got their offensive line, they got their slot receiver, they got another running back to pair with Coleman for this year. The Jets had a good draft. I really think so. And I agree. I think that this is one of the best landing spots for all the running backs that we've covered. Travis Etienne is debatable, but I think that in terms of clear terms of success, Michael Carter is probably second on the list behind Najee Harris. I agree with you.
And there's not like defined roles. It's not like Pirine is the third down back or Ty Johnson is a third down back or anything like that. They seem to just be other players. So if Michael Carter shows that he's the better back, I think that the Jets will give him the rock to start.
Yep. And Coleman's been having injury concerns. So that's something else to consider.
At 109, the Tennessee Titans selected Dez Fitzpatrick. Dez who? This pick surprised me. And it's not by the Titans addressing the wide receiver, because not many people I listened to had scouted Fitzpatrick in depth at all. He was nowhere to be found in PFF's 1,283 page 2021 rookie draft guide, if that tells you anything. It's pretty comprehensive guide, and he was nowhere to be found. So Dez, he had a solid breakout age of 19.7. He averaged 17.5 yards per reception in college. And I think he's the perfect fit for play action in Tennessee, given how much they run. He has the alpha build that you're looking for. He's a sneaky pick. And if ADPs haven't caught up, like Dez Fitzpatrick, that's a guy you want to get after. And I'm actually kind of ticked. In one of my drafts, I didn't get him. I was trying to trade up to get him, and the guy sniped me. So I wanted Dez, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in Tennessee at the wide receiver position.
The Titans have a history, though, for going after receivers that either nobody wants to or is controversial or whatever, you name it. I mean, Dorial Green Beckham, do you remember that pick and the bust that he turned out to be? So I am shocked at the pick. I do agree. Like, he was nowhere to be like named anywhere. He could be one of the steals of the draft. Who knows? And he could fall into a necessity role just based upon volume. And we've said before is that volume is king in fantasy football. And he may just fall into that role pretty easily because there's not much ahead of him right now. And so it's one of those picks that you could late in drafts throw a dart and it might hit. And he could be, a contributing factor to your team in a flex position late in the season. So an eye to keep on your radar here is definitely Dez Fitzpatrick.
At 112, I'm also excited about this wide receivers landing.
I like this pick. I really like this pick.
The Detroit Lions selected Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god himself. Yes, he is a power slot, and some of his comps include Cooper Kupp, Michael Thomas. He's primed to take over as the number 1 wide receiver even as early as this year. Rashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams are both signed to only 1-year contracts. Both have injury histories. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown's location, and Jared Goff has a history of really targeting like those mid-power slot receivers. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp really playing those roles. So with the Lions addressing offensive line with Penei Sewell, I think they'll be able to protect Goff, and I think this actually increases Amon-Ra's ceiling.
Yeah, and just so people know, like Bradley and I put our money where our mouth is. I mean, we just took St. Brown at 2.6 in a rookie draft here on a team that we are co-managing here on a sleeper draft. And we've talked about this scenario this offseason. We've talked about them not having anyone in the wide receiver position. They only have Rashad Perriman. They have Quintus Cephas. They have Tyrell Williams. I mean, that's really it.
TJ Hawkinson is the only reliable receiver, and he was one of the he dropped some of the most. He had some of the most drops in among tight ends last year. So there's a lot of opportunity for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So again, volume and opportunity is king, and I think St. Brown has all of those here at his disposal. So I'm excited for this guy.
At 119, the Minnesota Vikings selected Kene Nwangwu, a running back. And this was also a player that I had no clue as to who he was or any background at all. This was not a running back on many profilers' draft guides, but he had speed, 4.32 40. His limited involvement on both the ground and through the air suggests he may be better suited for special teams. He only had 150 career touches in 48 games. It's not as though he played a few games and maybe got hurt and just showed explosiveness. He's not a serious dynasty target. Like, even for running back needy teams in rookie drafts, don't draft Kene Nwangwu. Madison is still the running back 2 here. And so like Amir Abdullah, I think even is the running back 3. So I'm not excited about him as a fantasy prospect.
And Abdullah's on special teams. So this pick kind of threw me off. I have no idea what this selection was for. I don't think it's a good fit for the team. I'm really impressed that you said his name as well as you did. Like that's impressive. Like I still can't say Tua's last name, and you just roll it off your tongue like it's just easy. So yeah,
you're so
I think
kind,
you said
Billy.
enough about
Let's keep going.
Yeah, enough about Kene Nwangwu.
Hey, you did it. 120th overall, the Patriots selected Ramondre Stevenson, and he played better than his measurables, but he's going to be buried on the Patriots depth chart behind Harris, Michelle, James White. But White and Michelle will most likely be gone in 2022, and Stevenson may be the lead back then, but he comps as Peyton Barber. That doesn't get me a lot of excitement. If you want to stash, if you're really running back needy, I guess. Michelle and Harris have had injury, problems the last few years, but this doesn't excite me either.
No, the Patriots running backs in general don't excite me. You never know what they're going to do. At least last year was probably the first year we've had any clarity to the position just based upon injuries and timing. But I'm not really, exuberant about Stevenson here.
At 124, the Washington football team selected John Bates, a tight end. And all you need to know is Bates is not a threat to steal targets from Logan Thomas. He has 47 career receptions in 23 collegiate games. Don't worry about Bates. He's more of developmental blocker tight end.
Yeah, you said all that we need to say about Bates.
Let's keep going. 126, the Tennessee Titans selected Chuba Hubbard, running back. And look, Derrick Henry finally has a backup. Is that right?
Oh, he went to the Panthers.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Yes, Carolina Panthers selected Chuba Hubbard. There we go. We got the right here. But regardless, Christian McCaffrey now has his backup and a Mike Davis replacement here.
Yeah, I was actually really excited about Hubbard and where he was going to be drafted. We talked about him on the podcast and a couple of weeks ago here, and I was really hoping he was going to go somewhere. Like if we talked about Atlanta, I would have loved to see Chuba in Atlanta. I would have loved to seen him. I mean, I hate to say it for all you Miami folks, but he would have done well in Miami, right? So the landing spot again was just for a fantasy purpose, not great. If anything were to happen to Christian McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard could be a league winner.
We saw what Mike Davis could do.
We saw what Mike Davis could do, and Chuba is going to be a way better running back. He coming out of 2019, I mean, he was like a top 7 prospect to the running back position, top 5 prospect easily. I mean, he was graded way higher than he was in this draft class just because he took a step back. And I think that
COVID does funny things, Billy.
COVID does some horrible things. And I think that the landing spot sucks, but if Christian McCaffrey goes down again, make sure you have Chuba Hubbard on your team.
There we go. Oh, all right. I'll read it correctly this time, Billy. 127, the Indianapolis Colts select Kylen Granson, a tight end. And Granson is different than a lot of the other tight ends that have been selected in this range. He's a receiving threat. He's a legitimate receiving threat. He's a yak monster, seemingly the heir apparent to Jack Doyle and Trey Burton. He's got great workout metrics and an 18.4 breakout age. Like, that's really good. Is he the next Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz? I mean, he's not as big as them, but it's hard to ignore in Dynasty, especially with how Reich had Wentz targeting tight ends back in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I like the talent. I like the landing spot. You just have to, be wary with, they do have Mo Alley Cox there still, who performed pretty well last year. And I know he's nothing special, but
the
Gigantor performed, and he did well, and he had a really good streak. So I think that's not something that you can, look the other way from. So again, tight end position is very hard to learn and develop in the NFL. So Dynasty, great. 2021, not so much.
I'd love to just stash him and forget. And if he pops, you have him. At 129, the Buccaneers selected Jalen Darden, wide receiver, and many consider him a steal of the draft. He's a sneaky slot wide receiver, 5'8", 174. His comps, Darnell Mooney and now teammate Scotty Miller. Will he be able to compete at the pro level? That's a big question that scouts had, but the Buccaneers think so and selected him here.
I love me some Darnell Mooney, and I think that he's playing with, the greatest of all time quarterback here, and it's very well possible that I don't think he's going to show show up on the field with any serious reps this year. I mean, there's just so much talent on this team right now.
But Antonio Brown could be gone. Chris Godwin could be gone.
They re-signed Brown.
Well, I'm for the following for 2022.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there is a lot of moving pieces in 2022. So I think that 2021, again, not a play, but for dynasty purposes, worth a stash.
At 131, the Ravens selected Tylan Wallace, and Wallace kept falling in the draft, falling in the real life draft. And my thing is, it's because of his underwhelming workout metrics, but he played ridiculous with over 100 yards per game the last 3 seasons. In 2019, he missed time due to an ACL tear, but he showed great bounce back in 2020. And I love the Bateman pick. I love the Tylan Wallace pick. And I think that the Ravens are going to throw more. How much more? That's going to be a question, but I'm excited about seeing Lamar Jackson bounce back into the top 5.
See, a little bit of contrarian here. I'm not as fond of the pick. I just don't think they passed enough to where it's really going to matter. I mean, you still have Brown there. You still have.
I think it's good for Jackson, maybe not good for Wallace.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that. Just as much as this team runs, there's just not enough volume to go around. So they still have other options here in both the passing game and the running game. So we'll see. But again, a stash, probably nothing more than that.
All right, you got the next one here, Billy.
So we have at 133, the Saints took Ian Book, quarterback here, and I don't really think there's that much to say here. I mean, the Saints already have Winston on their rosters, and they already have he who shall not be named. For those of you who have watched the shows, I refuse to say his name. And his comps are, in relation to Colt McCoy. So not much to be excited about here.
Yeah, Ian Book. He was a 7th round grade, undrafted free agent grade. So this was very much a surprise developmental. Maybe it's hedging that Taysom Hill doesn't return next year. At 141, the Rams selected Jacob Harris, tight end wide receiver hybrid. I'm not sure. Like, I was initially not sure why they chose him. He's a project. He's 6'5", but 219. He ran a 4.48 40, so blazing speed. Buddy's 24. Only broke out at 23, but his workout metrics are amazing. Sean McVay has a lot of work to do with this guy because, he's not polished, and I don't even know what position exactly he's going to play. They say tight end, but not sure.
I think this is just more of those filling the hole positions with Everett leaving. And they probably just went after athleticism rather than, true positional skill. And I think they're just hoping that they can coach it, but we'll find out.
At 145, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Luke Farrell, tight end out of Ohio State, and he slots in as the tight end 1 right now. Ugh. I mean, don't tell me Chris Manhertz can be better. Okay. Farrell only had 24 career receptions at Ohio State, but this is an Urban Meyer pick. And he was recruited by Urban Meyer back in 2017. So this is a shrug, I guess. Whatever.
Is he really projected right now as the starting tight end?
You want Chris Manhertz to be your tight end 1?
Yeah, or maybe James O'Shaughnessy, I guess.
Ew.
Maybe. I know it's gross.
No, give me the guy who's been coached by.
Maybe
Urban
they're just
Meyer.
waiting for somebody to be cut. I don't know.
Ertz.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Jordan Bevan, but yeah, sure, why not? Or Luke Farrell.
Why
sorry.
didn't they go Jordan Bevan?
They should have.
Bevan Jordan. At 147, the Houston Texans did, though. And Jordan was considered by some rookie profilers to be like a bulletproof prospect. He had a 3rd round PFF projection. He ran a 4.69 40. He was 6'3", 247. I think he's an absolute steal in fantasy drafts if people are drafting based on, where real life NFL draft is. And Culley's tight ends. So David Culley, the head coach for the Texans, he was an assistant in Baltimore the last few years. And he is a head coach and passing game coordinator ranked near the top in all of the tight end passing categories. So if you're taking a shot at a tight end to break out right away, a rookie tight end other than Kyle Pitts, we're talking Brevin Jordan because he's only competing with Atkins right now.
You don't have no love for the McKitty?
No McKitty love. No McKitty love. At 150, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Kenneth Gainwell, running back, pass catching specialist, and bye-bye Boston Scott. I'm waiting for you to use the bye thing here, but it's okay, Billy.
I don't think I have that loaded up right now.
That's all right. Bye by Boston Scott's fancy value and Jordan
but
Howard.
We do have this one. Hold up.
Bye.
Yes, bye to Boston Scott. Gainwell should quickly step up into a useful role for the Eagles here.
Yeah, I really like Gainwell. Again, wasn't crazy about the landing spot. I honestly would have loved to seen him inside like Cincy. They had the option to pick him. They chose not to. But I'm interested to see how he affects Miles Sanders, quite frankly. I own a lot of Miles Sanders, and I'm not looking forward to it. But I think Gainwell will take a little bit of a chunk of the pie here, as definitely from Boston Scott, but probably a little bit from Sanders as well.
At 157, the Minnesota Vikings selected Amir Smith-Marset. He's a wide receiver, converted cornerback. So he played corner out of high school, won some state championships in high school playing that position. But now he seems to be the deep threat that the Vikings need now that Thielen's a little bit older and Jefferson is used all throughout the formation. And also Tyler Conklin's going to be a thing. So they need a field stretcher.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned with this pick.
At 162, the Kansas City Chiefs selected Noah Gray. And the one thing about Noah Gray, he doesn't drop the ball. He had a 19% target share at Duke. He has respectable metrics. He's most likely not the Kelsey heir, but at least he has experience receiving if Kelsey ever went down. In case of emergency, break Gray.
Yeah, I think this is just a depth signing.
Yeah. At 168, the Minnesota Vikings selected tight end Zach Davidson. He's a tight end punter combo and definitely not a threat to tight end 1 Tyler Conklin.
I love how you threw Tyler Conklin in there.
At 179, the Dallas Cowboys selected Simi Fehoko, a wide receiver. And this is an interesting one. He comps a DK Metcalf and Alshon Jeffrey. So very big bodied, bona fide alpha receiver. And he could play outside as early as 2022. If Amari Cooper and or Michael Gallup find their way out. He broke out at 20. Yes, it's a little low, but he had great workout metrics. He was drafted in the 5th round. His biggest weakness is his development. As I mentioned, a very young, undeveloped DK Metcalf. He needs a year to learn from better wide receivers, and what a better wide receiver core to learn from than Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper.
And at 6'4", 220 pounds, he's a big guy. I mean, that is a man on the field. And when he's stacking up against cornerbacks that are 5'10", 5'11", 5'9", I think that it's a major mismatch. And I think that I have all but certain Gallup is gone in 2022 for Dallas. He'll probably sign somewhere as number 2. Even he has talent to be number 1. But I think that we'll start seeing me here down the road.
All right, at 181, the Chiefs selected Cornell Powell, a wide receiver as well. And his projection is as a future like number 2, number 3 wide receiver for Kansas City. He doesn't have amazing speed, but he has strong routes, hands, yards after the catch, a very reliable receiver. And I think the Chiefs needed to go to a different direction than Sammy Watkins or Mecole Hardman, that they realized that Patrick Mahomes needs someone more reliable. And I think Cornell Powell provides that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just go big every play. You have to have somebody that can get you 5 to 7 yards on an out route and is consistent with their hands and their route running. So it's a good pick, again, more for a NFL standpoint rather than a fantasy standpoint.
We'll give a salute to pick 184. Baltimore Ravens selected fullback Ben Mason. Got to love the fullbacks. At 187, the Atlanta Falcons selected Frank Darby, wide receiver. Billy, you want to tell us a little about Frank Darby?
Yeah, I think he's just an all-around special athlete, more of an athlete than a receiver. I mean, he's got poor hands. 10 drops on 77 catchable targets. So he's definitely a work in progress, especially in a receiver position when your one job is to catch the damn ball. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be in need of a receiver here in the near future, especially if Julio Jones is traded this year.
At 194, the 49ers selected another running back, Elijah Mitchell. He was my deep cut pre-draft, and I love the landing spot, even though he'll be 4th or 5th on the depth chart. He's got a ton of speed, and with Shanahan, he's going to rotate backs in. So if Elijah Mitchell can bust a couple, he might be an interesting pick.
Yeah, and I love he's like a joystick, right? I think this was the fit for the Shanahan offense. You didn't need to reach for Sermon. You could have just grabbed Mitchell here at pick 194 and drafted your secondary that you needed previously. So I like this pick, not so much on the Sermon pick. Pick 196, New York Giants. We have Gary Brightwell, running back here. He's more of a north-south runner, very explosive, hits the line, full speed. But he also has drop concerns, so non-factor in the passing game, and he's never had more than 89 carries in a single season. So I'm not too concerned with Gary Brightwell and his fantasy impact here at all, period.
Yeah, he's not going to be the Wayne Gallman backup. He's going to be more of a plotter or anything.
Yeah, pick 198, the Chargers took Larry Roundtree, the 3rd. Got to throw that in there.
There were other 2 round trees.
There were. And I mean, he's the 3rd here for the Roundtree family and probably like 3rd or 5th on the depth chart because he's slow. I mean, he's 4.75 running back. And I mean, his best comp was Jonathan Williams. Enough said. Okay.
Let's move on to another running back at 202. The Bengals finally selected a running back, Chris Evans. But the quote out of Cincinnati from Zach Taylor is that we want to keep Joe Mixon on the field, especially in 3rd down, as much as possible. And waiting until the mid-6th round for Gio Bernard replacement means that Mixon is in line for a massive season. So when I bumped him up to a running back 1 in my projections, I think he's going to stay there. I hate it, but he's going to stay there.
This O-line is so bad. And I've said it time and time again, and I even stood here on the Hill last year when you didn't like Mixon, and I said the talent is there, but the O-line is crap. I mean, it's horrible. And
they didn't really address it like in the 1st round. Penei Sewell was there, and they went chase.
Yep. Yep. And so I think that it's all going to depend on this O-line, and also it's going to depend upon when Joe Burrow is able to play. I mean, if Joe Burrow misses the first couple games, that box is being stacked, and we're not going to see Mixon do much. But if Burrow's able to come in, sooner rather than later, I think that teams are going to have to respect the passing game, and it may open up some lanes here for Joe Mixon. But I just think that he's got a lot to overcome on this O-line.
He might. I mean, he's a long shot to lead the NFL in rushing attempts, but I think if anyone's going to do it like as a dark horse, I think it's Joe Mixon.
I don't like it, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, moving on. 203, Marquez Stevenson, wide receiver, selected by the Buffalo Bills, 4.53 speed, A6 percentile agility score, and he's going to be buried on the depth chart here.
Yeah, he's behind Sanders, behind Gabe Davis, and Diggs. I mean, I just don't think
Beasley.
He's gonna make it. Beasley. I don't think he's gonna make a splash.
204, the Carolina Panthers select Shi Smith.
I have no idea how to say it.
Shi Smith. We'll go Shi Smith. 4.5, 140. Other metrics are a lot worse than that. Stedman Bailey's his comp. That's not impressive. Yeah, don't look to Shi Smith for fantasy relevance. If he does, then okay, unsubscribe from the podcast, I guess, if that's the determining factor here. But
do you know why that we don't know how to say his name? Because we've never heard it on the radio because he's not good.
Ouch. Yes, Terrace Marshall will be the more fantasy relevant wide receiver rookie pick for the Carolina Panthers. At 205, Tennessee Titans select Racey McMath. Okay, all I need to tell you about Racey McMath is that he's my new favorite player, and he has the new favorite name, Racey McMath. Come on now.
I like McKitty better.
As the math teacher, McMath is my guy. I might even go get a Tennessee Titans McMath jersey and just wear it.
Just cut out the Mick part, just math.
That's phenomenal. At 209, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Jalen Camp, wide receiver. Camp is 6'2", 226, alpha build, amazing speed, burst, catch radius. He only moderately broke out at Georgia Tech in 2020 at age 22, with Trevor Lawrence now throwing the ball and the new regime drafting Jalen Camp. He's the one that was selected. Camp is a definite stash in Dynasty. He's an alpha burst waiting to happen.
Yeah, stash though. I mean, there's still a lot of talent ahead of him. You still have Chark, you still have LaVisca, you still have
Marvin Jones, but he's the biggest one. He's the biggest wide receiver you're going to have there.
Yeah, I get it, but I just not a lot of draft capital here. I think he's a stash more than anything.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. 211, the Cleveland Browns selected Demetric Felton, a fullback. He might play some running back too. Beside Chubb and Hunt, there's literally nothing. Like D'Ernest Johnson was getting some carries last year. So Demetric Felton might get a little bit of love. So love to the Cleveland Browns fullbacks here. At 217, the Chicago Bears selected Khalil Herbert. And I think this is just another little sprinkling sign that David Montgomery won't have 90% of the running back touches like he did last year. Damian Williams is there, Tariq Cohen, and Khalil Herbert. Oh, and Justin Fields, their new quarterback, he can run a little bit.
Yeah, he can, and that's going to hurt David Montgomery. I really do think that we see a lot of decreases here in David Montgomery. You and I have talked about it off air. I mean, Cohen is back, but David Montgomery was also not very efficient on the fantasy data efficiency metrics here that we have on the website. He just was not efficient at all. And so if you have David Montgomery in Dynasty, now's your chance. Sell him while you can, while people are chasing the numbers, because we're not going to see that type of season from him again.
All right. At 218, the Indianapolis Colts selected quarterback Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger does have a few things going for him. He started for 4 years in Texas, 19 years old as his breakout. He averaged 35 rushing yards per game. So that's comparable to Justin Fields. He gets at least some draft capital, and the Colts are actually motivated to sit Wentz if things go sour right off the bat. So, I'm not super excited about Ehlinger himself, but maybe you just take a stash, and if you have Wentz, maybe just put him on your taxi squad.
I think we see Jacob Eason before we see Ehlinger here.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't have a strong take on that, but at least interesting that they drafted a quarterback here. At 219, the Denver Broncos selected Seth Williams, wide receiver. And honestly, the free fall had to end somewhere, right? But when asked why he was chosen, the Broncos GM said Williams was selected because he could play special teams. And that's not the response you'd hope for with all this pre-draft hype about Seth Williams being this breakout, Seth Williams being this alpha, etc. Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, he's not gonna. I mean, there's so much talent in the passing game here for the Broncos. I mean,
He's buried.
He's buried. Cortland Sutton's back. You have Jerry Jeudy. You have Noah Fant.
Tim Patrick.
I mean, there's just
KJ Hamler.
There's so much ahead of him. Like
Melvin Gordon can catch passes.
Yeah, Seth Williams is not going to participate.
At 221, the Chicago Bears selected Daz Newsome, wide receiver from UNC. He played in the slot primarily for 2.5 years, and he may be the Anthony Miller replacement. So with Miller being rumored to be traded, Daz Newsome may step in. He doesn't have any dazzling workout metrics, and I think he may struggle to separate at the pro level. Not excited about Daz Newsome as a prospect or his fantasy prospects.
Yeah, I'm not either. And I really like, Darnell Mooney in this offense. I think that he's going to be taking that next step forward. I don't think we're going to see Daz as much.
229, the Colts selected a wide receiver, Mike Strachan, who sat out 2020, but he had 2,326 receiving yards in 22 games. He's an alpha build, 6'5", 226. We were talking earlier about, the Alshon Jeffrey comps, but this dude is even bigger. And I know Michael Pittman's 6'4", but this dude is even bigger, and he may step up and be the alpha. We'll see. But Michael Pittman underperformed last season. So the wide receiver core is a bit ambiguous. T.Y. Hilton's old. Campbell is coming off of injury. He'll start 5th on the depth chart for sure, but there's a lot going for Mike Strachan.
See, I like Michael Pittman more here. I actually haven't projected for a breakout this year. I just think that Strachan is just one of those stash and plays and as well as drafted it just as insurance, I should say, and can fill the role of Michael Pittman if he gets injured again. I think that's more so what this is about, more of a big bodied receiver, because we've seen the inaccuracy of Wentz as well. So I think it's just them playing to Wentz and also filling in a role that they need for another big bodied receiver in case Pittman does get hurt.
All right. At 233, the Rams selected Jake Funk. Another good name. More fullback love, too. This has got to support Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. So fire up your Cam Akers, Darrell Hendersons. 6th round fullback. 242, New England Patriots selected Trey Nixon, wide receiver. There's literally nothing special about Trey Nixon, so we'll continue on. At 244, the Dolphins selected Jared Dokes, a running back. Myles Gaskin safe?
Or is safe? He's safe.
I don't know. Dokes is bigger, thicker, can run faster, and he's a better vertical. And he was drafted with the same draft capital as Gaskin. So if you have Gaskin, I don't think you sell, but you definitely should target Dokes at the end of your rookie drafts. We saw Miami give one back the load. It wasn't like a split backfield. So if you have Gaskin, but he loses this job, you need whoever's going to be the backup, whether it's Ahmed or whether it's going to be Dokes. Malcolm Brown isn't going to be a threat. Don't worry about him.
It's going to be Gaskins. Gaskins looked so good on tape last year. I mean,
he only averaged 4 yards a carry. It was unimpressive.
I don't care though. He looked good. Like he just looked fluid. He had loose hips. He had pretty good burst. I mean, you want to dance? Like you want to dance?
Billy, can you talk about loose hips a little bit more? Oh boy!
You want to talk about loose hips? You got to watch Myles Gaskins. He looked good. I liked Gaskins, and I think that this is hands down his position.
I think he's the favorite. Don't get me wrong, but don't forget about Dokes. At 249, the LA Rams selected Ben Skowronek, a wide receiver, tight end out of Northwestern Notre Dame. He's rated as an excellent blocker. He can come down with 50-50 balls, but as we were talking about before, the Rams are really focused on getting athletes and getting high upside skills instead of like you are really good at this position. So that's, I think, a Skoranek pick here.
Yeah, another one of those. Hey, let's draft the athlete and teach him the skill.
Yeah. At 255, the Saints selected Kawan Baker. And look, the Saints needed to draft a wide receiver, and Kawan Baker profiles as a solid pick in the 7th round. He has respectable measurables, 4.4, 140, 91st percentile burst, 99th percentile hands. He broke out at age 20. There's tremendous ambiguity here. Traquan Smith has been in a massive disappointment. Marcus Callaway hasn't shown almost anything. Deontay Harris is a gadget player. Baker's 6'2", 210, but New Orleans intentionally listed him at 6'1", 215. I wonder if they might view him as more of an outside player with Michael Thomas in the slot, Traquan Smith outside. Maybe they're hedging that Baker might do that. Also be on the outside.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this was another one. Like, I thought if like another one that they should have drafted Elijah Moore, like in the first round. Like, there was 2 teams that really needed the player and they just don't take him. It just makes no sense to me. Like, I don't really like Kawan Baker here either. I don't think he's going to do anything, honestly.
Worth a dart throw very late.
Yeah, like 5 beers in your hand.
Okay, 5th round rookie draft, maybe. I don't know. At 256, the Packers selected running back Kylan Hill, and Kylan Hill was he slid, but he can catch passes, which is what the Packers lost in running back to Jamal Williams. So I think he's still 3rd on the depth chart, but he'll rotate in probably a few times for 3rd downs. Give Aaron Jones a break here and there.
Yeah, we'll see. The Packers being Packers and doing dysfunctional things. I don't like this pick here.
At 257, the Lions selected Jermar Jefferson, and Jermar Jefferson comps to Devontae Booker and Jamal Williams, capable career backup running backs. While his workout metrics underwhelmed, he did have 75th percentile dominator and yards per carry. It's interesting that he joins his comp Jamal Williams in Detroit. So, I mean, bite a kneecap off. Why don't you?
I love the bite a kneecap. It gets brought up all the time here. I think that he is, again, another stash with Jonathan Williams here Jamal Williams here on this roster. I don't think that Jefferson's going to slide in much as a backup. We all know it's Swift's job. We all know that Williams is going to sprinkle in, but I do think Jefferson, I think that he'll have a role, but just not right now. And
we'll bring it to the end here, Billy. Our last player, Washington football team selects Dax Milne. Milne. Dax, he's a wide receiver. He thrived with Zach Wilson throwing in the ball at BYU in 2020. He averaged 17 yards per reception on a 25% target share. He's not fast, but he fell tremendously. He was projected by PFF to be a 3rd round pick. So either you believe the Wilson Milne breakout or you don't. Like, you're either a believer or you're not. And it seemed like a lot of teams just were not believers in Dax. But with all the shower narratives in this draft, you would have thought maybe the Jets would have taken him, but so be it.
Yeah, I don't think he's in it. I'm not a believer.
It is the 7th round pick in the 7th round. Like, okay.
He's almost Mr. Irrelevant.
That's fair. Billy, who's an undrafted free agent that you're interested in? Just give me one name.
Well, you have him here on the sheet, actually.
Okay.
It's Hawkins. And I like him. I mean, Atlanta, we thought was going to draft a running back when they didn't. And then they took Hawkins here as an undrafted free agent. I love the pick. We were even talking on the podcast 2 shows ago, and his name came up as a running back sleeper on our show. I like Mike Davis, but I mean, we really thought that they were going to draft a running back, and to see Hawkins slide in here, I think he could be utilized year 1 as well as in dynasty purposes.
It's possible. One player I'll throw in too that's not on the outline, Tamorrion Terry, went to the Seattle Seahawks, and Terry was expected to be drafted, but just fell off. So it's him signing with the Seahawks, big playability. Anytime you're playing with Russell Wilson, and that there's a chance.
Well, everybody, thanks for watching our NFL recap here for 2021, rounds 2 through 7. Make sure to tune in this Friday. That's May 7th. And this week, we're going to be recording at 5 p.m. So 5 p.m.
Pacific time.
So 5 p.m. Pacific time. And it's going to be our Fantasy Data $250 best ball draft hosted on FFPC. We have a room full of champions. I mean, we have a 2-time FBG champion. We have a main event champion. We have best ball champions. Like, it is a tough room. It's going to be a tough draft. There's a bunch of sharks. There's, a few analysts in here as well. So it's going to be a very competitive room, but it should be a lot of fun. So we hope you enjoyed this show, and we'll see you all back here Friday for our live draft. It will be a long one, about 2.5 hours, and we look forward to seeing you then. Take care.